this meeting of the Hardin County Board of Education to order. And first up, if everyone will stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Bland, you got our board commitments.
To improve our effectiveness, the Hardin County Board of Education commits to keep children first, to listen, be prepared, be professional, demonstrate financial stewardship, represent the entire district and support district goals, and support board decisions.
Thank you. Got a little bit smaller audience tonight since we, for weather purposes, moved our location, and we're gonna next month recognize all the students that we were hoping to be able to do tonight. So we thought that may be better for our families based on what the weather was looking like. And so with that, we're gonna skip over recognitions for tonight. And that takes us to focus on academics. Mr. Sutton.
I can't say enough good things about the lady's going to come up here and present tonight. 25 years here in Hardin County Schools, and she has created a great culture for our elementary school principals. And I mean that sincerely. She's done a tremendous job at our principal meetings, putting the processes in place that we want to see at the elementary school, providing feedback. I was with her today at another school, and she's at schools all the time, working with teachers in PLCs, faculty meetings, individual. She's just done a super job. And one of the tasks we gave her about a year ago after our standards went through a revision at the state level was to redo the primary report card. And that was a tall task because it's not something you just change on your own. You had to have community support. You had to have parental, input. You had to have principal input, teacher input, and she led a one-year process for the revision of our primary report card that stays in Infinite Campus. And she created a report card I feel like it's more user-friendly. I think it's more accurate to where a kid is performing. And we wanted you all to know that happened. This process went through, and she deserves all the credit for making that happen. Her and Carlene did a great job. It was actually Stacy Bronner that did that. So, Stacy, come on up. I want you to kind of give the board an idea of what's going on with our primary report card. Super job.
Thank you, Greg, very, very much for those nice comments. So the report card is a very important communication tool between our schools and our families. And so we took this task very seriously on how this process was going to take place and what the end results was going to look like. So you might ask, okay, I think Mr. Sutton kind of mentioned why a new report card. We did go through some new standards, the Kentucky academic standards, the changes there. And then for some time, teachers had been asking and just inquiring when this process was going to take place. So the perfect storm just kind of was created, and we knew it was time to go ahead and start addressing that. So where did we start? So this, again, was a year-long process, so we knew we had to begin with a committee in mind. So we created a committee. In that committee, we had parents, we had teachers, we had principals, and district administration. We also made sure that we had representation for every grade level because we were going to be taking a look at what the standards were for each grade level. So we started with a survey. We surveyed our teachers, and we also sent a parent survey home and started getting those surveys back. And so the committee started taking a look at all the feedback, which was a long process when we had as many surveys returned as we did. There were thousands. So that took a little while to start going through that piece of the work. Once we took a look at what our feedback was saying, we kind of looked at what the majority and what the biggest concerns were and how we were going to address that. So we started digging in, and so a draft was created with the things that were mentioned as far as what teachers were saying and our parents were saying. Once this draft was created, there was a process of revising, sending it back out to our schools, getting more feedback, and coming back and sitting down and looking at what they were saying about what we were drafting. So how does this report card work? So based on the feedback that we got during the surveys, we realized that the format for our conventional, which is our 3 through 5 report card, that's kind of like the report cards we had when we were in school where it says reading and a percentage. A lot of parents they liked that format, so they didn't have a lot of complaints with that. So tonight I'm going to really show you what the big changes were, and that was our K2 report card. On the 3 through 5, what we did realize, though, there were some of our practices that need to be changed about how often we were putting grades at Infinite Campus, about our work ethic scoring was confusing. So there were some things that we just put some guidance in place for our schools for 3 through 5. But where our big work was on our standard-based report card, K2. And so what we ended up doing, one of the biggest concerns for parents is they felt that our previous report cards did not lend themselves to knowing whether or not their students were on grade level. You know, making progress really did not tell them how close or how far they were from a target. So that was something that we addressed. So when we went in, the big areas that we addressed was our language arts, which is our reading area, and our math, being able to tell parents yes or no, your child is on grade level. So we even broke it down further. We went to basic reading, which is broken down into phonemic awareness, you know, the sounds and the manipulation of sounds, the phonics, your letters recognition, your sounds, and your ability to decode, comprehension, the fluency piece, and then also the writing breakdown in language arts. We also looked at math. We broke that down into our numeracy, calculation, reasoning, fluency, and geometry. So parents now will be able to see the standards that are scored in basic reading under these areas, and they will be told after they see a standard score for the standards that fall under that, they will be told yes or no if their child is on grade level for each one of those areas. Because as we know, some students can read and they can decode words, but they may not comprehend what they're reading. So, you know, you might say, the parent might see yes, that they are decoding, but they can't comprehend. And so we got that specific with whether or not they're on grade level. And as we know, sometimes children can calculate and know numeracy, but they have a hard time reasoning, applying that into given situations. So now we've got it broken down into these areas. Okay, and I just mentioned this, we have each component there that will be broken down into on grade level. So this is the rubric piece on the K2 Academic Standards Report Card. So as you can see on the standards that will be graded under, like if you had phonemic awareness and all those skills that are broken down underneath it, and so on, all the standards, they're scored as independent, developing, beginning, and area of concern. And in the behavior area, we have exceptional, satisfactory, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. If it's not taught during that semester, or not semester, but quarter, it is left blank. So here is a snippet of the first grade language arts. And so I've highlighted where we put that on grade level, yes or no, but you can see underneath it the standards in which we score. Now, in kindergarten, we have broken down all of the pieces so that parents can see the phonemic awareness breakdown. So it's got a lot more under the basic reading because there's so many specific skills that we are covering and tracking, and parents wanted to know how to help their students. But as you can see, and I've got arrows built there, when the teachers score the standards, where you see beginning or area of concern, they basically get an average. And I'm going to share something that we also created to help teachers know how to score the report card. Then they make the determination if it's going to be a yes or if it's going to be a no. Again, if it's not scored for the first 9 weeks, then there's nothing there. So as you see in fluency, if they didn't do something for the first quarter, which we reported for the sight words, but we did not start actually taking a reading fluency score until the second quarter. So that would have been left blank, but they could still said yes or no based on what they did have scored at that time. And then here's an example of what the math would look like as far as the way it's broken down. And then our science and social studies, they will be providing a standard score there, but we did not have them to determine if it's on grade level or not. And as you can see, our art, music, Those areas, related arts, are now providing a grade, and they're also being able to report how students are behaving during those areas. And then the big behavior box there is for the homeroom teacher that reports that information. The parents actually said they wanted to know how their students were doing, or their child was doing in that area. So, as you can see, there's a lot of decisions for teachers to be making on how to score the primary report card. And so after we finished this, we knew that they would have questions, and so we figured we better go ahead and start the process. So we got another committee together, and we had grade level committees. And they were formed. We had 6 of them with teachers from each of these groups. And so we looked at expectations. What is reasonable expectations of where a child should be in the first quarter with these standards, and so on. And so we built packets for each grade level teacher. And what I really loved is the fact that it brought us together as a district so that we were all kind of scoring the same way. Because a lot of times this, it is subjective and you have to make decisions, but this aligned us across the district from school to school on how we were scoring. So we built these packets for the teachers to use to help score these standards and make that determination, in fact, is it on grade level or not. So the next slide is going to show you an example of what this packet might look like. So in kindergarten, for a teacher to determine whether a child with the uppercase letters, as you can see for the first quarter, that's how they would score. If a child only knew, let's say, 4 of those letters, they would score a BG in that standard for that area. And so everything that is scored on a primary report card has a column in a row like this that will tell a teacher how to score. And overall, when they make the decision, is it on grade level or not, we kind of built this rubric to know, depending on what type of scoring you're going to do. Here's an example. So for independent, if a child scored independent in the first quarter, that meant they met the entire standard that was expected of that student right then and there. So you can also see another area, if you're doing math and you had like so many problems and they needed an idea of how does this relate to independent developing, we also tied it to a possible percentage that goes along with our grading scale for our 3 through 5. When it comes to writing, if you're doing writing pieces, how does that align with that academic performance rubric, and does that determine on grade level or not? So currently where we are right now, this is not chiseled in stone, our report card's not. We're still taking feedback since this is a new process this year. So we sent a survey out for the first 9 weeks to our teachers to just see how they were feeling about it. We will be sending the results out of some of the things that we got back from in the first 9 weeks to get some comments and some feedback on from them again in another round. And then basically around our third quarter, we're going to send a survey back out to our parents to see how they are feeling about the new report card. And then we will make adjustments as needed based on the feedback that we're getting from both our teachers and our parents. And that is it. Do you all have any questions?
Yeah, so I remember when my kids were at that stage and I just had to shrug. I mean, I could read what was there and it sounded okay, but I didn't really know. It sounds like this addressed those kind of concerns. The one thing I don't really understand is how you determined how your committees determined what the grade level was. I mean, I know it's standards-based, but that seems, because
So you mean how the standards are basically our priority standards that we're teaching, and then we looked at what is that expectation of where they are going to be at the end,
so you
and then we
guys
broke
set
it down
that.
and kind of moved backwards.
So that's the expectation you were talking about earlier, okay.
Yes, because we know that standard is an end of the year. Here's where we need to be by the fourth quarter.
Okay, so
So
you
we kind
gave
of
it-
started here where we need to be at the end, and then looked maybe at the halfway mark of where you should be, and then kind of just played around to make sure that we were fair in what we were expecting.
Okay. This sounds like a tremendous amount of work, so it's really good. And it sounds like it's gonna be a lot of work for the teachers though now, so.
It has been, but I've been very pleased. I go in and spot check, and it's been very eye-opening. It's very transparent, whereas, parents are being told, no, your child's not on grade level, and sometimes that's difficult to hear. So you want transparency, but sometimes, again, it's difficult to hear that transparency. So, but our parents during that survey, they did ask also, we want to know how to help our children. Well, now it's very, very specific on how you can help your student, where the struggles are. And then, you can always contact your teacher if you need more to go from that. So I think it's opened up the line of communication between our teachers and our parents more.
Sounds good, because one of the complaints I get from parents is they say, I can't tell and I don't know what to do. So this should answer those things.
Yes, hopefully.
So when a student transfers from our district to another, how will this be explained, I guess, to a different
It's a good question.
district?
If the district reaches out to us, I'd be more than happy to share the criteria packets, everything like that. I think they're going to see a lot more information now about how that child's doing than maybe they would have in the past. So it's going to be very clear how they're working and be able to tell where that child is very specifically based on that report card and then the iReady diagnostic information that we send along with that child. So I think it's going to be even more information than probably they're used to receiving.
Okay, so it should be easier than a child coming in of you all knowing where that child is probably then, right?
Probably, because a lot of times at that age, it's very vague
You know,
on how they're performing.
It seems like there's a lot of movement in people. Yes.
But what I really like about the process that we're doing now, our kids can move from school to school, and then our teachers know exactly where they're performing. And they get the same packet.
Yeah.
And so, you can't be accused of one person being a harder scorer than another. This teacher's easier than this teacher. We are all aligned and we're all following the same guidance.
Good.
That's great. That's
Basically,
really
actually
good.
create a way on our clients to create continuums. We can take the kids' skills, set it right where they're at. We can put it over into a file and send it right to the teacher of the school that they're transferring to, so they don't have to start from scratch. So the skills are right there. So within district, it's easy. Somebody goes out of district, they may not understand our process, but we're in sync here.
And the other bonus that goes with the report card, the way those components are broken down, that lines with our MTSS process, which is our RTI, response to intervention. So if you do have a child who's struggling and it's showing there's an area of concern and it's in math reasoning, then we can put them in intervention in math reasoning. And we know, and it kind of aligns with the communication piece that we're having with parents when we're saying, okay, we're going to provide extra services here because your child is struggling. So it lines right up with those areas in our intervention system.
That's really good. Be interested to see over time if we find out some of our interventions aren't as effective as we hoped, or maybe they're doing exactly what we think they should, but now we can tell, right? We can measure that. That's really good. Good work.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, and then we have a departmental update, Human Resources.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Morgan. I'm LaToya Austin. I'm the Director of Employment for Hardin County Schools. My counterparts and I have the pleasure of bringing forth the department updates for HR this evening. We will discuss just a few key central functions of our department, as well as some day-to-day operations. First, I would like to start off by acknowledging our HR staff. The first one is our receptionist, Ms. Barbara Roy. She is the first face that you will see when you enter central office. Our next is our personnel secretary, which is Kay Reynolds. She handles our leave of absences, our payroll, as well as our employment verifications. Next, we have our personnel specialist. One is Ms. Kim Johns. Her position is split between HR and finance. She is basically our bridge. So she handles our coaching and leave of absences as well, and our accruals. Stephanie Partlow and Lisa Stevenson, they both have all of our schools split. So they have certified and classified. They handle our onboarding, our resignations, and any type of inquiries that our staff have. Next, we have our substitute coordinator, Ms. Rachelle Walsh. She handles all of our substitute onboarding as well as our placement for our substitutes. Next is our benefits specialist, Ms. Angela McNew. Of course, myself, Director of Benefits, Ms. Wanda Ballard, Director of HR, Mr. Mike Lawson, and then we're under the leadership of Mr. John Stiff. Once an employee is hired, they will then receive information from the HR department. We conduct 3 thorough background checks. Prior to meeting with us, they first have to conduct our first background check, which is our Administrative of Office of the Courts, which is a state background check. The second one is then our state and federal, in which they will complete and get a fingerprints, and that brings back any information statewide or nationwide. Once those two are completed, then we call them in to complete the onboarding process. Once they come in, we complete the CAN check, which is the child abuse and neglect check. And upon completion of approved background check, then we'll go ahead and get them scheduled to go forth towards our hiring procedures. During that time, we review tax withholding forms, direct deposits, the U.S. Department I-9 form to ensure employment eligibility within the United States, complete emergency contact information, discuss pay, holidays, and review of benefits. Our classified staff. So our classified staff play a vital role in our district. Some of the positions are, but are not limited to, our food service workers, custodians, bus drivers, monitors, vehicle mechanics, clerks, maintenance, and many more. To be considered classified, that means that you do not require a certification to work within the school district. In order to be classified, you just have to have a high school diploma or GED, or to show proof that you are working towards receiving your high school diploma. One of our roles is an instructional assistant. They require, the Department of Education requires that you have 48 college credit hours or the completion of the paraeducator assessment test. That test can be done in our adult ed department. So if someone is interested in becoming an instructional assistant and they do not have 48 college credit hours, they reach out to us at HR and we get them connected with Chris Reed at adult ed. His team will provide them with a study guide. They will also set up sessions to study with them. Once they pass that paraeducator assessment, then they can go ahead and apply to become an instructional assistant and we can get them moving forward. Additional requirements for other job-specific duties is like our vehicle mechanics may require a CDL and then maintenance, journeyman license, HVAC, things of that nature. Lastly, for the classified, this year is our initial year that we are implementing a classified evaluation online. So earlier this year, our certified staff started evaluations through our Perform evaluation software system. We want to make sure that we are evolving as a district as a whole, so we have started our classified evaluations online as well. Classified staff will get evaluated once a year just to ensure that we are progressing and letting them know how the good and how we could progress to invest with them to move forward within our district. Next, I will be passing along to my colleague, Ms. Wanda Ballard. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to talk a little bit about employee engagement and benefits. So, employee engagement, during the orientation process, we take a new hire through specifics, and LaToya mentioned a few, but the policies and procedures that we have a booklet that we give to each employee. We explain how our pay system works because, school systems, the pay is a little bit different than it is if you're coming from a position on the outside, if you will. And we introduce them to our time and attendance and absence management system, which is how we keep up with who's there, when they're there, days they take off, and so on and so forth. The central office directors and human resources staff conduct 60-day interviews with new classified employees and 60 and 120-day interviews with certified employees. Some of the questions that might be asked on those interviews are, what do you like about Hardin County Schools and what is going well? What's been the most challenging part of your transition to Hardin County Schools? How have you been supported by the building administration? What can we do at the district level to help you? And how is your processing at the central office, and were you given everything you needed? The responses to these interviews obviously are going to help us better serve new hires as well as the existing employees, and we're always looking for ways to improve that Hardin County Schools experience. Let's see. The surveys are sent out to, yearly surveys are sent out to the district staff to obtain feedback from them on what they might. So we're not hitting all the questionnaires, we're going to hit all the new hires. Well, with these yearly questionnaires that go out, all staff has an ability to give us some feedback. Then exit surveys are always sent when someone resigns from their position. The picture you see here on the screen is an engagement opportunity that we had in August with our custodial staff. And it was an opportunity for them to come and ask questions, get answers for things that they might have on their mind. It was a great opportunity for the administration to thank them for everything they do. Sometimes I feel like they get overlooked, and they provide a very vital, important part to our schools. And we served them lunch. And another thing that happened at this particular meeting was we had a brief program that went over workers' comp and things that they could do to avoid injuries. And I take care of workers' comp, so I greatly appreciated them coming and taking care of that for us. So we prefer to have very few of those yearly. Benefits. So I am the Director of Benefits, and Angela McNew, as we said earlier, is the benefits specialist. And so between the two of us, we assist all of our full-time employees with all things benefits. We start with the initial benefits that they're offered when they start as a new employee, and take them through any qualifying event that they may have, whether it's a marriage or unfortunately a divorce, or when they need to add a new child to their plan, something like that. We assist them in making all those changes when any need arises. And you can see on the screen that we currently have 2,227 full-time employees, and each of those are offered benefits. Just keep in mind that number is a moving target. So, from one moment to the next, we're hiring and people are leaving and they're coming in, and so we're constant. You can see that Angela, on this particular picture here, she is conducting the processing. And during the summer especially, it's our major hiring season, and we can, twice a week, we can hire and process anywhere between 20 and 30 people. And that goes from the end of May until the day school starts. And then the rest of the year, we're doing it at least twice a week as well. May have 1 or 2, 4 or 5 for that. Let's see. It can see there, I'm sorry, that the additional benefits other than health care insurance that we offer are dental and vision, life insurance, which include term and universal life, short and long-term disabilities, cancer, hospitalization, critical illness plans. So we pretty well cover the gamut with all of the benefits that we offer. And Mr. Lawson's going to come up now. Thank you.
Good evening. You can see this is the current vacancies that we have right now. It's broken down as certified and classified. Certified, we're actively seeking 29 positions. Of those 29, I think about 14 of them have been open all year. Those are the critical shortage areas, math, science. 1,173 certified employees. That includes about 29 retired teachers who have come back to work for us to help us fill some of those critical areas. The classified, we're actively seeking about 40. The majority of those are custodians and food service are the toughest areas. Currently, we have 1,308 classified employees. Okay, Mr. Ryan. The recruitment, a lot of what I do deals with the recruitment of certified staff. Ms. Austin as well deals with the recruitment of the classified staff. We have attended job fairs here locally for classified employees, both at the Pritchard Community Center, been several of those, the Hardin County Fair. I have gone to Fort Knox. I do a lot of, with the end processing, when they bring soldiers in to Fort Knox, we've gone to that. That's been good to us as far as military spouses, substitutes, those type of things, also some classified workers. Coming up in March is the large, I guess, the majority of the recruiting of certified candidates in the spring, as we'll be on the road a lot in March at a lot of the universities trying to recruit certified staff. We do a lot of other things as well, social media, trying to advertise our open positions, things of that nature. certification component of it, Ms. Stevenson, Ms. Partlow, myself, do the majority of this to aid our current employees, whether it be initial hires, candidates coming out of college, going through, applying for their initial certification. The alternative pathways to certification that is now open has created a great deal of, it's a lot more work than it used to be as far as trying to get people coming out of a work experience career into a certified area. Option 6, there's troops to teachers, U.S. veterans route, so there's a lot of things that play into that. We continually aid current employees in renewals of their certification. That is a year-long process as it's continually from August through the end of the summer. Emergency substitute certification recruiting, substitute teachers to help fill a vacancy. I looked before we came in here today. We have 410 active substitutes that are in Munis right now. Of those 410, I know it seems like it's a huge number, about 100 to 115 will work. It's a great day if you have 100, 115. So it's usually somewhere around just a little less than a third on a daily basis. But with the initiative that Mr. Stith took and that you all approved as a board with increasing the salary, the daily wage for our substitutes has helped tremendously in filling some of our positions. The Grow Your Own initiatives, you all are well aware of those. You have backed that from the beginning. So we have several of those initial certification for our classified employees that are moving into the teaching profession. We have a Master of Arts program for those that already have a bachelor's degree. Some of them may be looking, those may be teachers looking to get into administration, which is the next one. Also, we have those who may, classified employees who may hold a bachelor's degree looking to gain teacher certification as well. And the new one that Ms. Morgan has initiated is our Rising Educators. That is our high school students who are going to be educators. And thanks to your support, we already have, I think, several of those that will, in the next 4 or 5 years, be working with kids in our classroom. So we appreciate your support in those areas. Questions? See, they put me at the end so I can answer any of the questions. That's how it works.
On the benefits side, do we compensate for people that opts out of the insurance, like where there's 2 people?
We do, we have
to come to the mic.
Don't go far.
Sorry.
We do for, and I do think I failed to say that, but most of all the full-time employees are offered benefits, and the ones that need health care can take those plans. We offer plans, 3 separate plans, and they run from single to family plans. But there are plenty of people that do not need our insurance because they're covered either by state plans like Medicare, Medicaid, or their parents. We have a lot of, young people that start to work with us and they're still covered with their parents until they're 26, they can carry them, or a spouse. So they are offered a waiver card through the state. If they have a group health plan, they receive $2,100 per year. And they can use that for prescriptions or for co-pays, dental, vision, orthodontics, anything like that. The people that might have TRICARE or Medicaid or Medicare plans like that through the state, they can only use their plans on dental and vision. But it's still the same amount of money.
So roughly, you think about 2,100 is our cost?
Actually, well, through the state, yes. It's $175 per month,
Okay.
breaks down. So it's prorated if someone comes in later in the year, but that's January to December. They've broken it down where they give you half the money in January now and half of it in July. So that does save a little bit when people don't come back or, for the next school year, or they resign or retire.
And the sub-list, do you rotate or do you just keep going back to the top list when you're calling subs in?
A lot of it with this online system, Mr. Wise, a lot of it is they have the ability to go into Talent Ed and into ASOP and they can select positions they want to fill for that day. The ones that we have unfilled, the system will call. And if nobody picks up on that, Ms. Walsh will call. We will start trying to do it manually like the old days before we had these systems. But a lot of that, they have a lot of choice.
Okay.
We usually get involved with the long-term substitutes if there's a maternity leave or or things like that, then we're involved in that a lot. If the building level principal can't find one, then we kind of take up the slack a little bit on that, or try to.
So subs actively watch our list then, and
And we go through at the end of the year, and we'll non-renew, like if they don't, a lot of them, and I tell them this when I process them and have the training meeting, most of them are not getting into this to work every day. And I understand that, it's supplemental. A lot of them, if you can get 3 to 5 days a month, that's great because they're going to school, they're working a second job. Some of them just want to be a part of Hardin County Schools. You'll have a few that want to work every day. So, that's why you have the large number and then the smaller number that's working every day. But we'll go through it. If they don't work, I'll look at it and they've worked less than 10 days or so, we'll non-renew them in their contract with us. And then if they want to do it again, they'll have to apply. But most of them, if they make an effort to work, we keep them on the list.
It's also important to note that about 5:30 each morning, Mr. Lawson has already gone through the vacancies that we have in the district and trying to figure out, we had the instructor threes that you all approved of, which is our full-time sub. We can move those individuals around. So if one school has out 5 and another school only has out 1 teacher, he will reassign that instructor 3 to a school that needs them worse. And then if you look out in the audience, like Miss Sutton, Mr. Stith, and Miss Sutton there, and Wanda, and John Wright, we have individuals who go out and take sub-positions. Ms. Bronner, all of them have gone out.
You are?
Yes, sir.
And so it's a great thing, and we really appreciate them. I can text them and say, hey, we need subs here at this building. And so this week, we've probably had 10 individuals to go to schools and sub for us due to shortages. So we appreciate that. And Mr. Lawson makes sure we know where those most significant shortages are so that we can assist our schools.
So overall, how are our recruiting efforts? How hard is it to recruit to Hardin County schools?
A lot of it, Mr. Seago, we do really well at Western. We do really well at U of L. Those are probably the 2 main areas. A lot of kids, we've got a lot more student teaching here over the last 2 years than we've had in the past, and that's huge because we'll hire every one of them. We've had some COVID hurt us. Before COVID, I would go out of state. We've done pretty well in Ohio and West Virginia. Had a couple from as far as Michigan come in. We'll start that. I'll start that swing again at the end of February. So I think we're fortunate enough, Louisville helps us because anywhere you go out of state, these major universities, you'd be surprised how many of them have ties or family ties to this area through Louisville, Elizabethtown, Lexington, so it helps us. And of course, the selling point I always try to make, you're 2 hours from Nashville, you're 45 minutes from Louisville, it's 2 hours to Cincinnati, 2 to Indianapolis. That helps us. It's not as difficult to get them to come south as it would be to come from, the Alabama, Georgia, those areas up here. So you have to have a little luck, a little bit with the out-of-state stuff, but we've been able to do pretty well. Hopefully we'll continue that.
One of the pictures that you saw was Miss Ballard and Miss Austin at the county fair doing recruitment of those hard-to-reach positions, and so we greatly appreciate that. So, lots of hard work happening in human resources for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Mr. Wright, do we have any visitors?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Construction updates, we got some updates this afternoon from Alliance and JRA on mainly Central Hardin. Things seem to be still coming along pretty well. I think we had some, today not included, some pretty decent weather in February that's helped with things. If you've been by there, they're starting now in the front of the school. And so things are moving along they're pretty much on target and what we like to see. So got some information on potentially how we're going to move forward with other projects and some things to consider there. So, but all in all, I think it was pretty good report from both of them. You have anything to add to that? All right. And consideration of consent agenda. We are approving 3 John Hardin High School students to graduate early, effective February 24th. Received information on Governor's Scholars. We're approving Central Hardin FFA team to travel to El Reno, Oklahoma. And approval for Central Hardin JROTC to travel to Denver, Colorado. Financial services, we received the financial reports. I do want to note, not that this was on one of those financial reports, but just to give some good news, we did get some good information that we saved a substantial amount of money on our fuel cost. We were able to lock in rates for an extended period of time. And for last year, we saved about $1.3 million with that. So that's always good news. And for what we've saved on target, on January, we may be on target to do about the same this year. So hopefully that will continue. But with the financial reports, we've also approving tentative allotments for the SBDM for the upcoming school year. We are approving a $1,000 donation from David and Marcella Best to the Bluegrass Middle School Youth Service Center to assist students and their families. Also, a $1,000 donation from the Restoration Worship Center to the HCS Family Stability Program. And a $10,000 donation from Gates Corporation to Hardin County Schools for the amazing work we do in the community. We want to very much give our thanks to all of them for that. Any donations are always welcome and can always be put to very good use, so we really appreciate that. We're approving some change orders for Central Hardin, biggest one being with some geo wells and things, and approving some BGs for the Early Learning Academy that we're working on in the north end. We're going to be voting to approve to declare transportation items surplus and auction them through a sealed bid auction to be completed by March 31st. We received some information on New Highland and Woodland roof repairs that need to be done. We're hoping we can do some repair work and put off for several years having to do new roofs there. And approval of school-wide fundraisers. We've got the certified and classified personnel actions. Received all the minutes, and that's it on the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss, pull out, anything?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do have one action item, which is the adoption of the resolution to support the Council for Better Education in its legal challenge to the unconstitutionality of House Bill 9. Ms. Morgan, do you want to
Yes.
share a little more on that?
So the Council for Better Education looks out for the best interest of public schools and how funding could be utilized or misused in this avenue. So our legislator had passed to where charter schools would be funded. So the Council for Better Education is taking that issue with that, and so this would be a contribution to help with that lawsuit. And again, this is to protect our tax dollars to go to support public schools and not those that may have a board that is not elected or does not represent any of the standards, that Stacy talked about, academic standards, to where they don't have to follow the same guidelines. So this would be Hardin County support to help with that. In each district in the state, I would say a very large majority of schools participate in this, and it's based on the size of your district. So we've already seen where the Supreme Court has taken issue with parts of funding going to private schools, and this is a continuation to make sure that will be appealed and that we can continue to make sure our public schools are funded and money is not being sent elsewhere.
I move we adopt a resolution to support the Council for Better Education in its legal challenge to the unconstitutionality of House Bill 9.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Terry, I was looking at the resolution. Do we have any idea what the costs are going to be? that we're
Yes, sir.
obligating
It's
ourselves to?
$1 per student.
$1
is
per,
what we.
that's similar to what it was for 563 attack. was it not?
Yes, yes. Our total amount, I have it here right in front of me, would be $13,275.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of the resolution. If you read the opinion of the Supreme Court, when they previously shut down provisions of 563, the reasoning is equally, the faults that were in that legislation are equally in this legislation.
Right.
And I think it's a substantial likelihood of success if the constitutionality of it is challenged, and I'm certainly in favor of doing that.
Agree.
Any other discussion? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business. Any new business? I did want to take a moment to welcome our new board member.
I love it over here.
Mr. Wise. I said somewhere along the line, I think all this was planned to get me over in this seat, but we are very, very glad to have him back, and all of his knowledge and hard work that he brings to the board. And I think we're very lucky to have him, so we appreciate his willingness to do that.
Thank you. God has a good plan, and you're there.
All right, superintendent's report.
Question, the custodial, are we sourcing out some custodial work now?
Yes, sir. In situations where we do not have enough custodians, we always try to have a first shift custodian that is an employee of the district.
Right.
But we do have some schools who do not have the number of employees they need, and so we have outsourced that. I believe the board approved that in October or November, I'm not positive. But it is only in situations where we cannot hire enough custodians to do the work. And at all of our schools, our first shift custodian is still an employee of the district.
So I probably should have asked you a while ago, I was asked this week, how are they hired by the school themselves, or they come through here in the same process?
No, sir, they're hired by a company, and John, if you want to speak to it, they're hired by an,
So
we outsource
How
that.
are we getting a background check on them? I've had all kinds of questions this week.
Sure, those are all really good questions. And I will say that, if I can throw my 2 cents on our HR department, we have a lot of folks in this district that do a lot of heavy lifting behind the scenes, and these 3 individuals here do a tremendous job. So I wanted to get that shameless plug in. Part of that duty, though, when we do work with subcontractors that are sending employees on a regular basis into the school setting, they are submitted to very similar background checks that we would put our employees through.
Okay.
So Wanda does a great job of screening those. If we have a situation, we have one we're concerned about, she'll usually run that by me. And unfortunately, our subcontractors run into a lot of the same issues that we run into sometimes with folks that don't have the background that we would prefer to have in our building around our kids. Did I get that right?
And these subcontractors are actually in the building after school hours, correct?
The majority of the time, of course, as you all know, our buildings unfortunately are used a lot. So it's rare for our buildings not to have kids in them anymore, seems like, to maybe 10 o'clock. But they're there around them very minimally. They're, we still obviously have administrative staff in the building usually. This is our second attempt at using an outside agency to help. The first didn't do very well, and to be honest, this hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. They're struggling to find folks to fill the positions we've asked them to fill. So it's really an all-hands-on-deck approach. We're trying to turn over every stone we can to try to not only keep our buildings clean, but, the staff that's here that's working, they get tired of, hey, could you work an extra 4 hours? Could you come in and clean an extra hour? They get, at a point, they get run down as well. So it's not meant to be a slight to anybody. We're just, our staff has done a great job recruiting. It's just as most organizations are struggling right now to find workers, we unfortunately are not immune to those same challenges.
Thank you.
Okay, so in order for them to participate in our system or be a contractor for us, they need to be a organized company, I'm assuming, or?
In this instance, yes. We tend to work with folks that do business in Kentucky, that are established, that have insurance, and meet certain minimum requirements that we would expect of other vendors. We like to do a little research on them. Hopefully they've worked in another school district. That's who we prefer to work with. We do look at vendors, though, in two types of categories. Those vendors that work with our students on a regular basis and those vendors who don't work with our students on a regular basis. So, for example, a mowing crew that comes in and all they do is mow the grounds.
Right.
We treat that a little differently than we do somebody that comes in our building and is around our kids on a continuing regular basis.
I think that was a whole lot of concerns, because people, there's more and more going on. Not saying they're lesser quality employees, but some of them are having to take some high-risk employees in order to have workers. And I think that's what the questions that were directed to me was concerned about. Are these people drug-free, and a lot of issues out there, so.
Yeah. And Ms. Austin, you're welcome to speak.
Mr. Ross, I just want to reiterate that although it's an outside agency, they still have to look up to the same employment standards as any Hardin County school employee. So I'd just like to let you know our 6 criterias that if anyone has this on their background check, they're automatically excluded from employment with Hardin County Schools, because our first priority is protection of our children. Drug trafficking at any time, any sexual offense, any child abuse, a felony, drug use or possession within the last 5 years, and multiple alcohol offenses. So if we receive anything like that on a background check, they're automatically excluded. Unfortunately, our children are first.
Good. I hope they watch tonight, because they'll answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are really getting concerned. They really are.
They should be.
Thank you.
And if they're concerned and unemployed, we would like to hire them.
Absolutely.
That's what I told them.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have that
Just to put
job.
that out there.
Superintendent's report.
Yes, just want to share, the other night, we had a great opportunity to meet with 16 early college academy students. These are students who are going to leave our district with an associate's degree. Now, that's not all the students who will leave with an associate's degree. What's special about these 16 is they have an interest in furthering their education to become teachers. And so this will be, these are just the ones in the early college academy. We will be meeting with students interested in going into education at our home 3 high schools in March. But these 16 will graduate with an associate's degree, which means they can all leave here and be accepted into a teacher program. So there is a possibility that these students would be on track to be back with us in 2 years. And so Western Kentucky University was there. They have been great supporters of this program and are meeting us halfway. Whatever we contribute toward a student, they will match that. So if we contribute a third, they will match a third. If we contribute a half, they will match a half. So,
Good deal.
yes, it is. And we are just really excited because we know number one, they have an incredible foundation because they've been through Hardin County Schools. And then we know they want to be part of this community because they've lived here and they value the education they receive. So we were just really excited about that. The second thing I've asked Mr. Wright to pull up, I am not a social media guru. Mr. Wright told me years ago to stay off Facebook, and I have. But I do want to show you, I am adamantly opposed to people airing their dirty laundry on social media, but Hardin County Schools does a great job of using social media for what it was intended for, which is celebrations. And so I just encourage those in the audience who do social media to go and check out all the great things that are happening in Hardin County. Our individual schools have Facebook pages, but so does our instructional services department. So John, if you just want to scroll down, you're going to notice the Keep It Real, and this is our efforts to do project-based learning, problem-based learning, to make sure that our students are leaving with the skills necessary, such as communication, collaboration, which all of our businesses are like. We would like students who can work together, who know how to communicate. So you're just going to see multiple examples of all the great jobs that our students are doing throughout the day. I wish I could remember what was being tested here. What does that say?
They were testing that at John Hardin. That was our ag students.
And what were they testing?
Owl pellets, was it owl pellets?
What is it? I'm sorry.
Was it owl pellets?
No, I can't remember.
No. It was very interesting as I looked on social media. It said it on one of them.
Yeah, I remember reading it. I forgot what they were testing.
Yes, because it was a very interesting test they were doing. But if you have a chance to go through, you will see a lot of great things in the hard work and dedication of our teachers and our administrators to promote this happening in our classrooms each day. So we just encourage you to do that because we certainly have a lot of celebrations and we want our public to see that. So, Madam Chair, that is it.
Always exciting to see all the stuff going on in our district. All right, we do not need an executive session.
No, ma'am.
Board calendar, February 20th, school is dismissed for President's Day. It's also a professional learning day for staff. February 22nd at 9:30 is the HCS WHAS 11 Excel Award ceremony at Lincoln Trail Elementary. February 24th to 26th is our KSBA annual conference. I'll look forward to getting educated. March 16th is our next board meeting. The lunch meeting will be at Vine Grove Elementary. And then we actually, while it's scheduled to be here at central office, are going to be at the PAC so that we can recognize the students we weren't able to recognize tonight. And with that, does anyone have a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.